Ready to go? Let me tell you a story of hope. And this is my story. And it's hope in the promise of Allah. My brothers and sisters, some years ago, I was at a fundraiser. Now, many of you will know that I often am the person on stage asking for donations in a fundraiser. But in this case, I was sitting in the audience. And I remember listening to the campaign and listening to the brother on stage making a sincere plea. And I turned to my wife and I said, you know, it's possible that we could actually save one life. That our donation today could change and save somebody's life. Now, we had a very clear intention of giving a certain amount of money that day. In fact, we'd gone with that amount of money to give at the fundraiser. But my wife and I had a discussion. We pushed ourselves. And we ended up giving 6 times what we'd originally pledged in our mind. And that was the biggest donation we'd ever given at that time in our life. Alhamdulillah, donation was done, event was ended, khalas. What I could never have imagined, brothers and sisters, is less than 2 weeks later, I was on the other side of the world. And I was involved in a road traffic accident. My head smashed into the tarmac at 60 miles an hour when I was jettisoned out of a car. I had to be airlifted by helicopter. I was in resus with doctors and nurses and people running around me. People who were there told me afterwards that they thought I was going to die on the spot. And to be honest, I should have died. I suffered extensive head injuries. And every single person I met said the same thing. Mr. Jung, you've made a miraculous recovery. Mr. Jung, are you sure that you're able to see? Can you grip with both hands? Are you able to walk properly? And says, I walked out of that hospital on the same day. I flew back to London, and every doctor I met when I came back to London said the same thing. You had a miraculous recovery. I tell you what that miracle was. That miracle was the blessing of Allah. Because brothers and sisters, when I sat in that fundraiser 10 days, 2 weeks before, what was it the brother was asking for? He was asking for a brain pressure sensor for the people of Gaza to prevent them from getting brain damage. And I said to my wife, maybe we'll save one life. I never knew that it would be my life that we would be saving with that donation. The Messenger of Allah promised us that our sadaqah protects us from calamities. I know in my heart that what protected me from my brain damage, with my brains coming out on the other side of the world and being able to get up and walk away, was that donation that I made 2 weeks earlier, thinking it's going to save somebody else. So when I talk about the hope of the promise, it is Allah who promised that our sadaqah saves us from calamities. It is Allah who promises us that when we give to those in need, Allah will protect us from the things that we can't even imagine are going to happen. And I know it was my donation that saved me. The promise of Allah is true, and we must never, ever lose hope in the promise of Allah.